Did anyone ask for a retelling of King Arthur where King Arthur isn't the main character of the book? Not to mention the fact that he isn't even king at all? Or the fact that we don't even follow one of the side characters that you might normally be familiar with from the original legend? Anyone? Anyone? Today we are talking about The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell, and this was the Patreon pick for the month of April, and this was nominated by the patron Heidi, and it was, I'm not even going to lie, I was not looking forward to reading this book. This is not that I have anything against it or I had any idea that it would be a bad book. I'm just not the target audience for this book. I'm not a huge fan of Arthurian legends. I'm not a huge fan of retellings of the legend. I haven't necessarily read a bunch of books of it. I actually do have the Once and Future King that I did want to read. I haven't ever gotten around to it, but I don't like, most of my experiences with like television shows and movies, and it seems like every year there's another telling or retelling, or this is the historical version, or a what if King Arthur was a Roman version, or what if there's just so many, like I said, it seems like every year there's another variation or retelling on the King Arthur story, and I just tend to not care. I don't know, I just don't really get interested or invested in King Arthur stories. To be honest, the one I liked by far the most probably in my lifetime was that weird 1990s miniseries called Merlin, starring Sam Neill, not the new Merlin, the old Merlin. Anyway, I bring all of this up, and I feel like it is important to bring up because with all of that being said, this is a very good book. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I expected to, if I'm being honest. And I'm going to start first and foremost with probably my favorite thing about the entire book, which is the storyteller format that it is told in. And I am a huge sucker for this kind of storytelling if it's done right. If it really gives you that feeling of being told a story by a storyteller as they're going through the beats for you. You can do the setup to a story and frame it as though someone's telling the story to you and then just pivot into a traditional story style. That's not this, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the books that really make you feel like you're being sat down and you're being told the story. And this really has that in spades, that real storyteller as he's going through and framing and reframing and contextualizing things for you as he's telling the story. Oh my God, it's so good. And it's not particularly important to the story, and it's not particularly important to the narrative whatsoever. But what it is important to is the overall feeling and the vibe and the experience and my personal connection with the book, because now I'm engaged. Now I'm engaged with the content in a way that I would not have been otherwise. And just for me personally, and this particular book, it was a complete game changer. And then on top of that, he starts the second section of the book by immediately telling you that he's a liar, or at the very least that he adjusted the way that the big end climax of the first section of the book happened because it's more interesting to save a big reveal for last. Even though that's not how it happened, it just works better as a story. As he's admitting it, he calls it story crafting, and it adds that layer of unreliable narrator to the rest of the book. And then from then on out, everything he's telling you, you're kind of contextualizing and recontextualizing in your brain, because what is real, what is not. I'm assuming that it's a true story or his version of the true story, but things have been shuffled to make it just more fun to read. So you're just kind of like, really, I'm not dissecting it too hard, but you're looking at it a little bit as you go through and then re-looking at it a little bit more. Which then added to both my enjoyment of the book and to that storyteller feeling. Also, like the storyteller himself is giving us a little bit of an inside look as to what he's doing and how he's doing it, kind of with a little bit of a wink and a nod, kind of like we're in on it and we are special in some way, shape, or form, which is why he's letting us in on one of his little secrets. Kind of makes you feel special somehow as the reader or the listener to the story from the old man. Anyway, you can't tell, that was probably my favorite thing in the entire book, was just that vibe and feeling that I got as I went through it. I really enjoyed it. But I would also say another standout for this book is the character work, and it just how invested and engaged I was primarily with Durfel, the main character of the book, because he has nothing to do with any Arthur legend ever. He's kind of like an invention for this book, and he is your primary focus the entire time. It's not even like he's your eyes into the world. He kind of is your world, and everything else is kind of happening around him, and we're more focused on him and how he's moving through this world than we are with Arthur or Merlin or anybody else in the story. And he is so well developed and so well curated for you that I loved everything about him. I loved being with him and going through the story with him. It was really, really well done. If I had to pick a second person that I was most interested in the story, it would be Nimue or Nimue or Nimu. No, I think it's Nimue. But it's really that relationship between him and her, and how that works and how that grows and evolves and how it affects him, and just everything about those two characters and the relationship between the two of them was probably just the standout as far as character work for me in this entire book. Then I will say, out of all of the OG characters, I know Nimue is technically an OG character, but I mean, in my mind, the OG characters, my favorite of all of them would probably also be the one with the least amount of page time, Merlin. And he's just like this weird, enigmatic figure floating off in the distance that doesn't actually take part in the story for quite a while. And then when he shows up, he's just the most completely like weird, insane, interesting asshole of a character. He's just, I mean, there is not any scene that he is a part of where he is not the most interesting person in the book at that second in time. And then he just disappears, says he's going over here to the west while he's really going east, and then he goes up. I mean, at no point is he doing what he says he's going to be doing. He's a liar and an asshole. It's fabulous. I loved every second of him. Like I said, at no point was there a scene that he was in where he wasn't the most interesting character at that second in the book. And then there's the story itself and the quality of the story and the quality of the storytelling, and what I personally was expecting from this book when I found out that it was going to be told by this person who was traveled with Arthur or whatever, this Durfel guy. I expected either like a squire tale that follows him around, or a servant tale that lived with or next to or was bonded closely to Arthur, and he lived his whole life with him, and now he's going to recall all of the mystical, magical, great deeds of the great Arthur as he lived his life. And that's just not the case here. I mean, it is in the sense that we are having an old man Durfel report back the life that he lived in proximity to Arthur, and he is recounting those great deeds that Arthur did. But Durfel is not a servant boy. Durfel is no squire. Durfel himself is a great warrior and a leader of men, a man of consequence and a man of action. Also, on top of that, he doesn't start there. He starts from a much more meager and humble beginnings, which then lulls you into that false sense of security. And I think I know exactly what this story is going to be, letting you think that it's one thing where in fact it's not. It's something very different. And in order to get you from point A to point B, he's going to have you follow this evolution of this character, which evolves from something that you think you might know into something that you didn't expect or see coming. It's just really good storytelling. Or to use his words, it's good storycraft. Everything about it was very good, and it's satisfying from start to finish. The journey that Durfel goes on, the journey that the other characters go on, and how it all evolves and interconnects, and how Bernard Cornwell builds it and evolves it and really keeps you invested and engaged all the way through. And then there is the comment section of when I said I was going to read this book. The comment section goes nuts, telling you and warning you this is some of the greatest battle scenes that you're ever going to read in your entire life. Bernard Cornwell is the master. Well, first off, I'm not the biggest fan of battle scenes. They tend to be like, okay, I'm fine, but I'm not like super drawn to them. And most of this book, I'm reading through the battle scenes as I'm going through it. And I'm like, I don't understand what's so special about this. They're not bad. They're good. But I don't see why these are the greatest battle scenes anyone's ever put to page before. Anyway, all of that being said, I will say the battle that is the climax of this book is amazing. It's just so investing and engaging, and the character work that is happening in the battle as it goes down. The character work immediately after the battle is amazing. The tension, the stakes, just the way everything unfolds and plays out. And it's just, man, I cannot say enough about the climax of this book. I genuinely loved it. I genuinely enjoyed everything about this, to be quite honest. Not only is the book impressive, but the ending is exceptionally impressive, I felt. And if he grows and moves on and develops from there, I'm starting to see why people enjoy his work, particularly in the battles, so much. Anyway, I've kind of overly gushed about this book. Might have given you the wrong impression, because I think, honestly, at the end of the day, I would give it probably right around an 8 out of 10. And I think I've talked it up a little bit more to make it sound like it's better than that. But I think I just got so excited about it because I liked the whole framing device and the way it was told, and I liked the execution of how it was done. Everything about it was extremely good. And I don't have necessarily high hopes for an King Arthur story or a King Arthur retelling. And this really rose above what it could have been and really outshined the others that I have seen or experienced in one way, shape, or form, or one medium or another. And I was very pleasantly surprised with how much I liked it and how much I engaged with it at the end of the day. And also, that being said, if you are a sucker for a King Arthur story, or that's really something that interests and engages you, I could see this very easily being a perfect 10 or a 5-star or whatever you want to call it for you. As always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.